Entertaining, informative, and educational. Inspiring content that makes a difference.
This is the Maximus Troy Publications Broadcasting Network.
Join the Academy. This show is brought to you by the Breeders' Academy, where we will help you to increase your knowledge of breeding, advance your skills as a breeder, and help you to improve the quality and performance of your fowl.
As a member, I'll provide you a roadmap that you will need to create a true family restraint. Starting with a cock from one breeder and a hen from another breeder, no problem. We can help you to turn your flock of hybrid crosses or mongrels into a pure family restraint, and show you how to continually improve that strain each generation. We'll start by showing you how to select your seed fowl and how to turn that seed fowl into a high-quality foundation strain. Our proven breeding programs and specialty courses are designed to take you step by step through the breeding process. And best of all, I'll be there to help you every step of the way.
We urge you to check it out. You have nothing to lose, and you can cancel at any time. You also have a 30-day money-back guarantee. Simply go to www.breedersacademy.com to sign up.
The Breeders' Academy will not only change the way you think about breeding, but improve the way you breed your fowl.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
Okay, welcome to another episode of Bred to Perfection. I'm Kenny Troiano, founder of the Breeders' Academy, and I'm here with my co-hosts, Nancy and Frank Bradley. What's up, guys?
That's that clip coming into the show. That's my week.
Well,
Really?
I thought it'd be a good one to go with buyer's regret, seller's regret, you know?
Yeah.
People spending their money or letting things go that they didn't want to let go and then have regret. And that's basically their reaction.
Been there, done that.
Yeah. So that'd be a good one.
Oh, poor Frank. He feels like he sounds like he's in a mood.
I've had a rough weekend. That's all I'm gonna say about it.
Is that
Well,
right?
it's
we didn't have a chance
Friday.
to talk to Frank before we got started, so I have no idea what's going on with him yet.
Yeah, we didn't even get to talk. It was just like, well, we couldn't if we'd wanted to. I hooked everything up, went in. I could hear them. They couldn't hear me. So I had to do some technical work and reboot my computer and got sound back. So it's the usual. We got a bad start. So that's nothing usual, I guess, for my end.
We're all pros at this now.
Yeah.
I wasn't even worried. I just figured we'll figure it out. We'll do something.
That just means we're going to have a great show.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Is that how it works, Nancy?
Absolutely.
Yesterday we were at Disneyland, and we're trying to come on a little more and let people know what's going on and the shows that we're going to be showing or playing, or the episodes we want to do, and kind of talk about it and get people excited about showing up. And so we're doing a little bit more. We, like the one we did yesterday, we called it On Location with the Troyanos. And we happened to do it at Disneyland. It was so funny. We walked, it's like we figured, okay, anytime after 1 o'clock, we'll come on and we'll do it. We'll just come on for a few minutes and do it. Everywhere we sat down, somebody plopped right down next to us, loud as can be, had, it was like, okay, let's move over here. Let's move over there. And we picked this little hole in the wall. Nobody's going to come here. Right. And we picked the far end of it and figured, okay, just do it here. And then as soon as we started, a guy on those electric wheelchairs decides to roll on in, and he's like, bang, hitting this table, and then bang, hitting this table, and then bang, and knocking chairs down all over the place. And in the meantime, you hear this beep, beep, beep. And then he finally gets quiet, and he's hacking up a lung or something. And it was so funny. I did see the table and chairs flying all over the place, but I didn't hear the other part until we listened to it back. Said, oh, okay, I'll just mark this up as one of our worst recordings, So, and then we walked around doing other things, and we're like, look at this beautiful place. We could have done it here. There was so many other places we could have did the recording. We just didn't see it. So.
That's how me and Amanda are when we go out and somebody almost hits us in another vehicle, we turn around and come back to the house, because it happens multiple times after that. It never fails, because Kenny knows the road that goes to our farm, and it's not, most places has got 2 lanes. This is maybe a lane and a quarter. And the people, they drive like 55, 60 mile an hour. It's like a snake, driving on a snake. It's curvy. And they drive in the middle. They don't get over to their side. They drive in the middle. If they could be in a go-kart, and they'll drive in the middle and take up all the room. So when we almost get hit once, we're kind of leery of it, because it don't happen just one time and that's it. It happens.
Everything happens in threes.
Like 5s or 6 with that right there. Because as soon as I get hit, man, it's like, oh God, it's going to be one of those days. And every time she's right. That's the reason we got those recorders up in the windows now. I'm to that point to where if somebody hits us, just call the police, let them come, let that person tell their side of the story, and then jerk the camera out and say, here you go.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Kenny, when you used to ride your bike on the street, you used to have one of those cameras for that as well.
Oh, yeah. A GoPro, I think it was.
You got to. I've watched people, if I'm in my truck, they're leery to pull out in front of you. But if we're on our bikes, they'll pull right out in front of you. They don't care. We was pulling out from the feed house over here. I think it was last Wednesday, and that's a 35 mile an hour speed zone through there, and they run like 60 and 70 through there. Well, this bridge is probably 200 yards long. Nothing's coming. I start to pull out, and before I got my front wheel out on the road, this woman comes through, locks her brakes up. She slid probably a good 75, 80 foot at least, maybe more, and then jumped onto me about it. And she was in a 35, driving that fast, and jumped onto me for it. So it's crazy. I don't know how people get their driver's license this day. Some of them, I really don't.
Well, drivers hate cyclists, bikers. They do. They just literally hate them. They'll come so close to you. They'll try to run you off the road. I had one guy try to run me off the road one time and then pull up ahead and start chasing me down. and started cussing me out and everything, acting like he wanted to fight me. And I just looked at him and go, don't mess with me, man. I'll wipe the floor with you. Don't mess with me. Turned out he was drunk too.
Yeah. That's what we have a lot of problems with.
Don't mess with me, man.
When we go, Amanda's got her little protection friend with her, and I've got mine with me. So we don't take no chances, because if you're on a bike, people can run you down easily. Even on a motorcycle. You're at their mercy. If they want to take you out, they can take you out real fast. So I want something I can even the odds with, if that does arrive. But every time we get on motorcycles or a bike, I'm just holding my breath, because that idiot's around the corner somewhere.
Yeah. I just got used to it. I just dealt with it. I got used to it. I just knew this is what I was going to deal with. Go ahead, Nancy.
Yeah, but what if you get chased by a bull?
Oh, I did that.
I'm having beef.
No, I was riding my bike up this hill, and I see these cars like zigzagging all over the place, and everybody freaking. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? And come right around the corner comes this big old bull running down the street. I got turned around just enough to get away from it, and I just hauled ass until I outran it. You know what I mean? It was the funniest thing. So
only in Ramona.
Only in Ramona. That's a saying up here. Everybody says that. Only in Ramona.
Yeah, we almost mentioned that. We almost had fresh steak the other day. The one up to the house there, the family cow. She found comfort in my back bumper of my truck the other day and was lifting the truck completely off the ground. And we were driving down the hill. And Kenny can tell you, without four-wheel drive, you're not going up or down this hill. And she was lifting the truck completely up. So I had to get out and fire my pistol in the air to get her away from the truck. Oh, wow. She does it in place. She don't mean to hurt you, but there's something about that truck. She'll just run behind it and butt it, with her head playing. But that playing to her is rough to us. So I told Dad we almost had steaks that night.
You want to hear something funny? We're actually having dinner at Disneyland, right? And Tanya took off on her own to do a ride by herself. And she goes, how you keep, people like they overcrowd you and get too close and everything. And I go, yeah. She goes, how I take care of that? And I go, how? She goes, I mean, she did it so loud and so disgusting. There was a bunch of kids, teenagers sitting right behind her, and they like ducked and ran away, and they had this disgusting look on their face, like someone threw a saliva hand grenade at them. You know what I mean? But the way she did that, and she didn't even know those kids were there, but she did it so well. The look, I wish I would have had it on video, because the look on their face and how they reacted was perfect. I was like, oh my God. So
I've acted like I was drunk before to get them away. We walk up to, and Amanda got so mad at first, and they got up and walked down. She goes, that's the best idea ever.
Well, Tony proved that what she said worked. She goes, I was keeping them. They were keeping their distance from me and everything. And I go, yeah, just make sure you sneeze or cough and go, not done with that flu yet.
COVID.
Yeah, COVID. Oh, that's how they acted too,
I'm catfishing. Robbie says, I've got you beat here. I've got one up on you guys. So a couple weekends ago, we were going out to the swap meet, and we hit up a new McDonald's. It had just been revamped. And we get in and, order our food. I'm like, I'm going to go use the restroom. And actually, it was a really nice facility. It was nice and clean. So I walk in the bathroom. I'm like, wow, this is a nice, clean bathroom. I go use the bathroom. I come back out, and I'm going to wash my hands. And I say, ooh, what is that? Is that a urinal? And I go, urinal? Bidet? In the women's room? What? I'm like, okay, well, it's a new world. And I washed my hands, and I'm like, I kept thinking about what the heck is a urinal doing in a women's room? I wash my hands, and I go out, and then I look on the wall right there next to the door, and it says men's room. I'm like, oops. The whole time I'm in there, wow, this bathroom's really nice and clean. It looks nice.
I saw it come out, and I'm like, what's wrong with this picture? Well, because I came out of the same bathroom earlier. You know what I mean? I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on with this picture? She looked so confused.
Well, it was, thank God it was early morning, and there was only one other customer eating in the facility. And it just in the other McDonald's that we usually go to, the bathroom is on the right-hand side for the women. And I just automatically assumed that the bathroom was going to be on the right. No. So
I know
anyway.
this is riveting talk, and it's not about chickens, but I'm going to extend that one just a little bit. And it happened to be at Disneyland a while back. That I walked in, happy as can be, just walked right in, going to go use the restroom. And it was in the area we always use that restroom. And I walked in, and I stopped. I went, wait a minute, what's going on here? Because all the booths were all, what do they call them? The stalls were all on the wrong side of the room. I'm like, shit. Okay. Step back real quick and got the hell out of there as fast as I could, before anybody saw me. That's embarrassing. I'm telling you.
Now, Amanda will use the men's restroom, but what we do, if the women's real crowded and I go in and use the bathroom and I make it out, she'll say, is anyone in there? And I'll say, no. And she'll run in and I'll stand at the door and guard the door until she goes in and uses the bathroom and comes back out. We have done that before, but a buddy of mine done the same thing. What Kenny was talking about. He went in the women's bathroom, but he didn't back out. He realized it. He just went in the stall, used the bathroom, women in there walking, washed their hands and everything, and they come back. They never said a word to him. Not one. There was probably 10 women in there. They never said one word to him. Probably afraid to, but he just come on back out like nothing ever happened. We was outside dying laughing.
And I walked down and looked around and go, did anybody see that? Jeez. So
he must have been a cutie patootie and the women didn't care.
I think that's what it was.
Okay, so just letting my members know that I just got out another master's class video as a recording I did with Brian Reeder. It was actually the first interview we did that I edited down and cleaned up, and it just made a great show. And know that I'm going to be pulling off some of the topics off that and making separate audios, kind of videos, because I'm going to be adding banners to it to help explain what we were talking about. Just know that if you go to the master's class video page, you're going to be able to see that course right now. And then I may be adding banners to that one later too. And then the other episodes will come out shortly after that. But I do want you guys to pay attention when you're listening to it. There's some particular topics in there that I think you're going to find very interesting. Is the one on breeding and genetics of silver duckwings. That was a great talk. It was split up into different areas of that talk. I am going to peel those off and put them all together and make them all one show. But you're going to see my revelation when he opened my eyes about one particular topic. And I remember it's a matter of fact, Robbie's there. He had mentioned in the comments when my revelation appeared. And just so you know, Robbie, I'm probably going to peel that off of there as an audio and use it as one of our shorts. It was that funny. But yeah, so you'll all hear that one. Not the whole story, but how I react it. And then keep an eye on the breeding and genetics of white and the detriment of progressive white. I think you're going to find that really interesting. And then we talked about the breeding and genetics of blue. And then we talked about some other things like the origins of the chicken. I mean, it was a 5-hour call that I did weed down. So it was we talked a lot. We talked about a lot of really cool things I think you're going to like. I can't wait to get the rest of them done. But I do want to welcome our new members. We're still getting good, a lot of new members. I really appreciate you guys joining us. Make sure that you check out the Start Here pages. I know there's a lot of information. I'm always worried you guys getting overwhelmed because there's just so much in there. And if you follow the Start Here pages in the beginning, and that'll give you an idea how the website's set up, how the breeding programs are set up, how the courses are set up, and it's going to help out a lot. Try not to absorb it all. If you have any, or if you need any help, make sure to contact me, and I'll give you the help you need. But take your time, go at your own pace. And notice that we have some tracks, some membership tracks. We have the beginners track, the intermediate track, and we have 2 advanced tracks. And I say this all the time because I get some veteran breeders in there that have been breeding for a long time, and I just don't want them to think that when they get in there that the big beginners track is for beginner breeders. Those tracks are not representative of the breeder you are. It's just a starting point. Maybe I need to name them something different or change the name of them. But anybody who joins the Breeder Academy, no matter what level of breeder you are, I really want you to start from the beginning and work your way through it. Make sure to check out the Masters Class video series, the Members Roundtable, the Founders Program, the programs and courses that support the Founders Program, and the daily articles. And know that we're pretty much adding new material each week. And we do coaching calls. And I would really like you to spend a little time getting to know the website, checking it out, and then writing down any of the questions you may have. And I always tell my members, give it a good month of getting used to the Breeders' Academy and what's on the website before you set up a coaching call, because I know you're going to have a lot of questions, and you're going to, if you do it too early, you're not going to know what question to ask. And then you start checking out the website after a coaching call, and you go, oh, I wish I would have asked them this, or I wish I would have asked them that. Now, we'll do coaching calls as much as you want. We just have to schedule them. But I'd really like you to spend some time on the website before you do it. We just also, for my members, after we're done here with the front end, the live show, we'll meet you guys in the back end for the members roundtable. And today we're going to be talking about breeding program essentials. And I think you're going to find this really interesting. We're going to talk about the factors that all breeders must consider before beginning the breeding process. So it's going to give you a little bit of insight on that particular topic. And what else? And for those who are thinking about joining the Breeders' Academy, this is a good time to do it. As a member, like I said, you're going to get the Masters Class video series, the Members Roundtable, the Founders Program, the program and courses that support the Founders Program, all the daily articles. And like I said, we're adding new material each week. More Masters Class videos are coming, programs, courses, and articles, and we do the coaching calls. So anything you guys want to say before we get started?
I'm good.
Oh, one more thing. Make sure you join the newsletter. There's a lot of good tips on breeding, a lot of free articles that are going to get you started. Just go to www.breedersacademy.com. Okay, let's get started. This is an interesting one. This is an outline that I started. Oh man, it might have been a year ago. I just started writing down ideas, and it was one that I kind of got started because I thought we always talk about the buyer's remorse, the regret buyers have when they buy fowl with all kinds of issues, or it wasn't the ones they thought it was. But I also wanted to cover the area where, what about the seller? There's times when they sell birds that they wish they wouldn't have sold too. So this one's going to be called the pain of regret, buyer's regret versus seller's regret. What determines a bad sell versus a good sell? What determines a good buy versus a bad buy? So, Frank, they both have regret, but they're two different experiences on the same coin, I guess you could say. Opposite sides of the same coin.
I would say 9 times out of 10 times it's going to work out the opposite of what they think it's going to work out. And it seems like the birds that you pay the most for are the biggest junk that you can get. It always works out. And we've always said you get them from a friend. A lot of times that friend wants you to have as good as they got. And that's usually the best place to get them. But I've learned over the years, the higher the price, usually the worse the birds, the way it actually comes out. Because, you're usually 2 or 3, 4 years into it before you realize you'd been had. Sometimes sooner if you know what to look for. But usually a lot of times it's way down the road. You got a lot of time, a lot of money invested in them before you realize that.
Well, it kind of goes with the fact that a good breeder is not going to charge his friend that much money, but he has no problem charging someone he doesn't know that much money, and he's not going to let his best stuff go. He's probably going to start with his worst stuff, especially if he doesn't know you very well. So depending on when you buy your bird and what birds he has available, and I could see the connection there between those two things.
Well, we say it all the time, just about every show, but usually people, and I'm speaking from experience here. I'm not, saying this person does it, that. I'm talking about myself here. And I was always looking for that next big, better thing to put on my yard. And I'd have this one in, this one in, this one in, this one in. And I had every color, every shape, every size, every variety. And when it all come down to it, Kenny, Nancy, I already had what I was looking for on my yard. I was just putting it back because it was already there and excited to get it from somebody else because I thought, somebody was going to set me up to where I didn't have to put no work into it. I could replicate them and be, just be good at that. Instant success, right? But it doesn't work that way. I don't care if you buy one that is the best birds that you can actually get. Your work's just starting to keep them that way. I've said it a million times. It takes a good breeder to make their own strain, but it takes a great breeder to keep them that way for years and years and years.
Yeah. Nancy?
Well, have any of you guys out there in the chat room, gals as well, had it to where a situation where you had a friend, maybe good, maybe just a acquaintance, give you some birds, but they make sure that they don't give you anything close to what their brood fowl is because they don't want you to end up being more successful than they are with the breeding practices?
Nancy, they say that, but honestly, I don't think they worry about that as much as they say, because if you look at their yards, there's so much variation across their yard. A lot of times they don't know what the best stuff is. Okay. They just know that this one has a problem. This one has a fault. This one is the one I want to get rid of first. And that's the one they're going to get rid of. If you're one of their friends, one of their family, one of their close, the people that are close to them the most, those are the ones that are probably going to get decent birds from these guys. But
because they know they can get them back, for one. If it turns out they give them birds that they do really well with, it's like, well, that's a bonus for me. I can just go back and say, hey, give me some of those birds back.
True.
That doesn't work out very well either, if you ask me.
No, it doesn't.
But what's happening in the meantime is it's ruining the way, let's say, our beginners are thinking and the way they feel about all this and what their experiences and the paradigms that they're creating, because they're getting such a raw deal and it just doesn't work out for them. And they just have a negative, after that, just have a lot of negative thinking. And it changes everything, I think. I don't know, the relationship between the buyer and the seller and then the hobby overall, I just think it goes in a bad direction after that.
Well, I've always said junk doesn't have a price tag.
Yeah.
It can be for free or it can be for thousands.
Yeah.
Yeah. See what I mean?
Yeah.
See what I mean?
Yeah. But it's worse when you have to pay for it.
Oh, yeah. Well, you pay for it either way. If somebody gives it to you, you still pay for it because you're putting all your time, energy, feed these days are outrageous. Everybody that's got chickens knows what I'm talking about. So I guess it's the point of it. You're putting extra in it, I guess you could say, by paying big bucks for them, to actually get them.
Well, here's the worst part too, is they're not always beginners, but they're not the big names either. So they'll spend a lot of money on these big name birds, and down deep, they kind of know they're not that great. They know there's issues. There could be problems. There could be defects. There could be sickness. Okay. They don't represent their breed. They could tell that they're crosses or mongrels. But you know what they're going to do, Frank? Because they spent so much money on it, they're going to breed that darn thing. And then guess what? That regret turns into bigger issues down the road, because now they don't just have that one trio that they spent a lot of money on, but now they have a whole flock of birds that they're spending money on, like you said, for the feed and the care and all that stuff. It just gets expensive after that because of one poor choice, because they just can't get themselves to let it go because of how much that trio cost them in the first place.
I see it as a fan club.
A fan club?
Mm-hmm. Okay, you're going to have to explain that one to me.
Okay. It's instant gratification and fame.
Oh yeah.
Somebody's out there that's said to have good birds, and they're selling 4,000 or 5,000 birds a year. Everybody loves their birds. Everybody's talking about them, and it's a fad. It's like going and buying a pair of name brand jeans or an expensive shirt or expensive cap or glasses. People pay big bucks for it. They bring it home. They glorify it, take pictures of it, put it on social media, and it's instant gratification for them. And really, just like Kenny said, it really doesn't matter what the birds look like. It's the name that's posted on the bird and who they bought them off of. And it's automatic gratification and fame automatically right out of the box.
I get that, because like when I buy a piece of equipment, like a new microphone or something, I can't, it's fun buying it. It's fun purchasing it. Then it's exciting waiting for it to show up. And then you get it and it's not what you expected. And I'm telling you, that happened to me yesterday. We bought a special, I swear to God, we bought a special microphone for my phone to do these, little videos we plan on doing when we go places, right? And I'm telling you, the microphone on the phone was much better than this so-called microphone that I bought. It was supposed to be specifically for this kind of thing. The sound was awful. So there's the box right there. I'm going to send it back tomorrow. Okay. Or Monday, maybe. So I know that feeling. I was disappointed. I was like, wow, I thought this microphone was going to work really well. It didn't. So it was exciting buying it, getting it, trying it out, and it didn't turn out the way I thought. Thank God I could return it. A lot of people can't return their birds.
Yeah. She said it right there. That's exactly what I was getting ready to say. And I love that term, name brand. That's what it is. It's a name brand.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And they'll breed it because they bought it from a particular person. And sometimes they'll call that person up and says, "Hey, really? This is the way they're supposed to look, or this is how they are," And he'll go, "What do you say, Frank? Don't worry about how he looks. He produces really good birds." You know what I mean?
Every time.
And you won't know for 3 or 4 years until you have a whole yard full of these birds and realize that they're not worth it. And then somebody comes on your yard, says, "What's all this junk?" And it bursts your bubble, So like Tony did to me years ago,
I do see it. It's sort of like I said fan. They sort of put these guys up as like movie stars as far as somebody famous. I remember back when I was a kid and the times that I went and purchased off birds from a well-known breeder. Why, I thought I was meeting a Hollywood star, and the birds meant the more popular the breeder, the more quality or lack that I put toward the birds. Now, did that make the birds better? No, but I thought so because it was coming from that particular person. But, I found out after years after that, there's just another person selling birds. And why can't I, breed the same type birds and have just as much success out of it rather than going paying an arm and a leg every 4 or 5 years to buy birds?
Now, Nancy posted one just a second ago that he got good birds from a smaller breeder. And I think that's the way to go. And I'll tell you why. Because a smaller breeder only has only so much room to raise so many birds, right? So he's not going to hold on to birds that aren't right. He's going to cull those and get down to, the better birds. And then on top of that, he can't keep them all. So the chances of you getting a better bird from these smaller breeders who put more time, more of their efforts, more of their heart into their birds than, say, a bigger breeder who just is all about the numbers. It's all about the numbers. Not that they're going to sell them cheaper, but the more birds they have available, the more they can sell. So I actually think a small breeder is the way to go.
A lot of these big breeders, they're not breeding all those birds on their farm. They've got other people that has game fowl or doesn't have game fowls, got farms that they're taking birds out and putting on a walk and hatching them off. And then when they get up big enough to pen, they go out, catch them, ban them right there on the spot. And they usually have already got them sold. And they know nothing about that bird other than, they went and got it, put it in a box and shipped it to somebody. Pretty much. A lot of times that's the way it's worked. Not all the time, but the ones that sell them, the majority of them out there. And I've always said just what Kenny said, buying from a smaller breeder. That would be me. Right now, if I didn't have a bird on my place and I was going to buy a breed fowl, I would go to a particular breeder that I know that's bred probably longer than I have. And he's got maybe 100 birds on his yard. But he single mates everything. He takes good records. He does the way it needs to be done. Not saying that these bigger breeders do, but a lot of times if you go see their brood pens, they've got 15 to 20 hens in one pen and one young stag with a comb still on his head to breed from. So, can you still get good birds from them? Yeah, you can still get good birds. Kenny says it all the time. There's good and bad birds on every yard. And I believe that wholeheartedly.
If I understand what Jason's saying here, is that when they ask you what kind of bird they are, you say peacocke, yellow leg, black-breasted light red, and then they walk away. Well, okay. And maybe we're just not reaching enough people, because if people want, they're asking to be screwed by getting wrong birds because they don't know how to shop for them properly. If they want that name, they're going to get that name, because some breeders are going to give them what they want. They're going to tell them what they want, and they're going to, that kind of thing. And so until we, as a group, and the people that are willing to spend the money, put their foot down and do it right, we're allowing these, I'll call them peddlers. We're allowing them to, do this to us. I don't know.
Well, I'm going to say this. And this is how I see it, how I look at it. To really look at game fowl, if we go back through history, you would think that they was only originated in the early 1900s. They've been here for thousands of years, 8,000 years. Okay. But hatch, kelso. Okay. Where was the breeders before those? Whose birds was that before they got the birds from them? Let's go past that. What did they call them back then? There wasn't no hatch, kelso, all the names that we endure today. People talk like that's the only birds that ever existed. And it's not. It was just a fab. And we're talking about it right now. We took a bunch of breeders that got recognized, had a few good birds. They got real popular with the success they had with them, and become famous, within 15, 20 years, they was looked as icons. So,
well, I've said it a million times that I went and helped somebody one time, and this particular person was a big breeder, well known. And this guy wanted me to go with him to help him select birds. I said, what the heck? I'm not doing anything. I'll go with you. This guy, the breeder, didn't know who I was or anything like that. But we got on there, and I just kind of was checking it out, standing around, watching what was going on, and listening to them talk. And the guy I was with, he wasn't a friend of mine, but the guy I was with said, he was walking around looking at the birds, goes, what kind of bird was this? And the breeder goes, what do you think it is? Well, he looks like a hatch. Then it's a hatch. He was asking him questions like that, one after another. What's this one? That one looks like a kelso. Well, what do you think it is? He goes, a kelso. Yeah, that's a kelso. And I'm thinking, I'm just watching this all transpire, just kind of sitting in the background going, I can't believe what I'm watching here. You know what I mean? So this guy, he said, okay, well, I'll take that one. And I went, whoa, hold on. We got to talk here. You know what I mean? And so I was discussing with him now, and I was at the same time saying, let's forget about the name for a second. What do you like to see? What kind of conformation? What kind of type you're looking for? What kind of color? What do you prefer? Because we need to start with the cock so we can decide what direction you want to go. Then we can select the hen. And he finally picked the ones he wanted. I kept telling him, forget the name. He goes, well, what's this one? I go, it doesn't matter. I don't care whether it's a hatch, kelso around here or not. It doesn't matter. What do you like? I finally got him narrowed down to a handful of birds. And when the guy was going to get the boxes for him, and he followed the guy who was boxing them up for him, the guy walked over to me, and I didn't say a damn thing. And I don't know if he kind of knew what I was doing, but he walked over me and he goes, you know what? If I don't tell these guys what they want to hear, they won't buy a damn bird. I could tell them the best bird's over there. Don't have a name on it, but they won't buy it. Mm-hmm. And I said, I understand. I get it.
I run into the same problem, Kenny, but this guy, he had roundheads, called them Lacey's for years. I'd had them as long as I've known him. And I'm with him there talking, and he gets a phone call, and he picks the phone up, and he goes, yeah, I got some Bruners. Yeah, come on over. I've got about 30 or 40 of them. Come over and, pick out what you want. Okay. I said, thought you said you had Lacey's. He said, yeah, everybody wants Bruners this year, so they're Bruners. Both of them was considered white-legged, light reds. So he was just telling, yeah, I got Bruners. Come on over. I'll sell them to you. And he just made that up.
Yeah, I've seen that too.
Yeah.
Where people thought they could confide in me, and they said, I just call them whatever they look like. I just sell them for whatever they look like, and they buy them.
Yep.
You there, Frank?
Yep.
I lost you there for a second. What'd you say, Nancy?
So Dee is saying it seems like the more popular the breeder is, the more you expect to get excellent fowl from due to his success. But when getting it from an unknown person, you expect to get poor or average fowl. That's because they're not up there yet. They don't have the successes that this other person does.
It's where you are in the pecking order. It really is. You know.
Well, when I was a kid growing up, I had to wash a lot of feed cups, feed a lot of chickens, clean pens, and just to get birds from the guys that was around me. And these two brothers, they sold birds all over the world. They got a good name, was selling good birds, good quality birds. But what they would do, and the old saying is, you've got good and bad birds all over your place, on every yard. What they would do, they would raise a bunch of hybrids every year, and they would go through them. They put the good ones on one side of the yard. They put the bad ones over on the other side of the yard. What they call that? They'd sell the culls, and they'd either let certain people have the good ones, or they'd keep them themselves. And that's the way every one of them back in the day done it. They'd breed them. Sometimes they'd have a lot of good ones. Sometimes they'd have very few good ones. But that's how they done it, basically.
I get some people go, well, how much is too much? When am I paying too much for a bird? Okay, because that money is hard earned, and you want to make sure it goes in the right places. And so, when is a bird worth the price? Well, I can tell you when it's a hybrid or Mongo, probably not, depending if you understand how to select them in the first place. But definitely, if they're sick, defective, or don't represent their breed, then they're not worth anything. And that's what they're letting out.
Yeah.
So
I don't know though,
how much is enough? How much is too much? That you want. I can't talk all of a sudden. When are you paying too much?
If I find the bird I want and the hen I want, and even though they are hybrids, I'll pay a good penny price for them. Okay, I mean, don't care to do it if it's what I want, because you can take a hybrid and turn it into your own strain easily.
Yeah.
Okay. So if it's what I'm wanting, I don't care to pay the money for it, but I'm not going to pay money for something that I'm going to have to work on so many years that I'm going to be gray headed and drawing Social Security before I ever even see any improvements. You want to get the best birds you can get, start out. If you can find those birds, they're worth a pretty penny. Saves you a lot of time, a lot of trouble. But what Kenny was talking about, getting bad birds and paying a lot of money for them, no, that's nowhere to go.
Okay, hold on, Nancy. Nancy knows me. I'll pay almost anything if I want something bad enough. If I think it's worth it, you know what I mean. So if I look at a bird and I think it represents what I'm looking for, has the right type, conformation, color, temperament, the whole bit, and it represents what I want to do with it, then a lot of times they'll tell. I'm not a bargain person either. Someone will tell me the price. I'll look at it, yeah, and I'll buy it. And it's not the price I worry about when I buy something, is it does it meet my goals? Does it meet my purpose? Does it have what I want? And then I move on without any regret after that. What you say, Nancy?
Now, are we in the category of buyer's regret?
Yeah, sort of.
I'm trying to follow this outline, and you guys are all over the place.
Oh, yeah, we're not on that line. Yeah, we've not been on that line for quite a while.
I see a few things I want to cover on this outline, but we're not exactly following it.
Oh, okay. So as it stands right now, we're on buyer's regret. When people say how much is too much or how little is too little, it really depends on how much you're willing to spend for, like what Kenny said, what type of bird that you want or what is pleasing to the eye to you. The few things that you got to remember is, are you knowledgeable enough to see the defects or the problems with that bird that may come with the money that's leaving your pocket? It's like a McDonald's hamburger. I mean, are you willing to pay $20 for a Big Mac? I mean, because they're going to be that in California here real soon.
What's the type and conformation of that Big Mac? Does it have the right color?
Does it have enough lettuce and enough special sauce? It's all in the buyer, but you worked hard for that money. Make sure you know what you're getting yourself into. Make sure you know what you're buying. Be knowledgeable. Do some schooling.
Frank, that's what I think I want the message to be, is educate yourself on the proper bird so that when you go buy birds, you're buying the right bird. And I have to say it, and I make enemies when I say this, is I wouldn't buy it in the mail. I would not buy it on Facebook. I wouldn't send them money and have them mail that bird to me, because chances are I'm either not going to like what I see, or I'm not going to know what I'm looking at.
Well, from a picture, you can pretty much tell the type of conformation of the bird if it's right. If it's got any defects that stick out. But you might get a hold of that bird and pick it up. You might get a hold of that bird and pick it up and find out it's crooked breast, it's got duck toe, and not to mention the traits that it holds on the inside of it. Just because it's got what it takes on the outside doesn't mean it's got close to what it needs on the inside, the traits that we don't see. So you can get burnt really easy by doing so. You're taking a huge chance when you do it that way. I'd rather, like Kenny said, I'd rather be there and put my hands on it and actually find out and talk to the breeder, find out if he's vaccinated, if so, what for, what his nutrition is. Ask the right questions, because a lot of times I've seen people get birds home and they've been kept on floors or cut fed all their life, and then they take them home, they start feeding them on the ground, and then they start, they're dead in two or 3 weeks. Yeah. So there's a lot of questions can save you a lot of regret and headache down the road.
What did you say, Nancy?
I forgot. Crap. I did. I literally forgot what I was going to say. I think
once you learn what makes up the bird, what represents the right bird, okay, then I think the biggest regret is once you learn those. And this is why I tell people, join the Breeders' Academy first before you buy birds if you can do it. Because you're going to get an idea what those birds, the proper structure of those birds should be before you buy it. Because I've seen it so many times that people saying, okay, well, I'll join the Breeders' Academy after I get my birds. Okay. And then they do that. Then they join the Breeders' Academy. They go and look at the proper conformation type. They look at the defects that exist and they go, holy crap. I just spent like $3,000 on a trio or $1,000 on a trio. And these guys have serious flaws. How many people, Frank, we lost count. How many people said that they checked out the defects course and had to go out and kill over half their birds because they didn't realize those birds had defects. And you know what the problem is too? Is a lot of these so-called breeders are supposed to be experts. They don't even know the defects exist. And they're sending birds out, not knowing that, thinking that they're good birds maybe, and giving these birds. There's a lot of people that are considered big names, experts, and they don't even really understand the birds they're breeding. They don't understand the breed that they're breeding. And that's crazy, but it's true.
It is.
Okay, I remembered what I was going to say. Chat room guys, everybody. Kenny, Frank, what is your limit? Do you have a limit? 5,000, 6,000 a trio?
What is your limit? I'm not paying over $2,500 for a trio. I'm not doing it. I don't care if it's got a go, but I'm not paying $2,500 over that.
I don't know if I have a limit exactly. I mean, $5,000, anything over 3 does sound kind of out there. But if I look at a bird or I look at a trio or a pair and I see a future with that pair and they are like they really represent their breed. They look like thoroughbreds. They got really good color. I don't see any flaws. There's no defects. They're not sick. They feel good in the hand and I'm excited. Boy, it's amazing how much I would pay if I thought they were that good and I had a future that I could build a family off of. Okay.
I'm different. I'm totally different than that. I'm totally different than that because I would probably be the best thing that probably ever happened to me, something hit my birds and kill everything I got. And I'd have to start all back over again. You know how much I would enjoy that? Because I wouldn't spend the money. I would go out, get my birds, the best I could get, best I could find, and start all over again. And I would love every moment of it. Now, that's
I get that. But here Jason is saying it might be better for a beginner, and I want to know what you guys think of this. It might be better for a beginner to start with hybrids because it seems like it's easier to see the improvements, whereas a high dollar pure stuff seems like it would be harder to improve on.
That's an interesting topic, and we're going to talk more about that on the back end. Let me say this, though. The question I had from a member was, if I buy a bird that's a mongrel or a hybrid, it has a lot of genetic diversity. Is that a bad thing? It could be, or it may not, because if you're expecting a pure family to express certain traits, you may not get what you think you're going to get. Okay. But if you're trying to create a family from birds that overall represent their breed, have the traits you're looking for, but have a lot of genetic diversity in them, that gives you options. It gives you variation. It gives you a choice of what direction you want to go with that family. Sometimes that's a good thing to start with birds with that much genetic diversity because it gives you choices. I mean, I couldn't believe the stuff that was coming out of my birds in the beginning that I just selectively bred, looked for the variations that worked in my favor, culled the ones I didn't like, and they took shape. I mean, without variation, selection's impossible. Without selection, improvement's impossible. So they all work together. And I was able to, if there's no variation whatsoever, then there's nothing to select for and there's nothing to change and there's nothing to improve along the way. So it depends. I'm not going to say one's better than the other. It depends on why you bought them and what you were trying to do with them or what you were hoping to do with them. But for someone who's looking for seed fowl that wants to create a strain, that variation, that genetic diversity gives you options. You just got to know what to do with it. Most people don't.
I agree with that, though. He does have a point there because you've got to be a good breeder. If you buy a really good strain that's already made, you've really got to be a good breeder to catch those little minute going forward things. And it's sometimes even the best breeders overlook it, doesn't see it. So I get that. I do. I really get that.
Yeah, you could screw things up in one season.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like I see this with chicken breeders. I see this with dog breeders. People getting these animals and not knowing what to select, not knowing what to do with the variations that are showing up, not knowing the genetic factors of those traits, and then matching them up wrong and going in a completely different direction, or creating more genetic diversity, not fine-tuning them, not creating the uniformity you want. I mean, I just crack up when people go, oh, you can't, even you could have the best knowledge of genetics ever, but that ain't going to mean you're going to be able to determine what the offspring are going to be. Man, wake up, because that person doesn't know what they're talking about. That's why genetics are important, because we can predict the results. If you understand the genetic factors of those traits, we can match our birds properly. 99% of the time, I can tell you what those offspring are going to be because I understand the genetics. Are there going to be some variations? Yes, we select towards the due to the phenotype. That's all we have. All we can do is select from what we can see. It's the genotype, the variations that come out of the birds as we go that we either take advantage of or we don't. We cull out. And usually we're not talking about huge things. We're talking about small little things that we can move the family forward with. So it's the phenotype that's most important, but the genotypes helps us improve them and fine tune them. So when someone says genetics is important, that knowing genetics doesn't really help you that much, or doesn't determine or help you determine the selection and improve them from there, man, wake up. You don't know what you're talking about. You're only making yourself look stupid.
They don't know what they're talking about, or they're selling hybrids only, making $1 off.
They're just trying to sell an idea on some people and just misleading them and taking them down the wrong road. And
or they may not know no better.
Oh, no, they know better. This person I'm thinking of right now on my mind that's making me say this, I know he knows better.
Oh, so, maybe they just don't understand genetics, so why even go there?
I know what you're saying, Frank. I know some people just don't. They don't. You know, this idea of infusing new blood and refreshing it. I think they think they're doing the right thing.
I do too.
Okay. Well, I just know it's wrong.
It may just very well be this is new. This is the new and up and coming invention in chicken breeding is genetics. I don't remember, I could be wrong. I don't remember a lot of breeders back in the day in the 1930s or 40s talking about genetics and what it has to do with breeding.
You're right in that a lot of people didn't know about genetics. They didn't know how to. Okay.
The chicken was the first one.
What's that?
The chicken was the first geno-sequenced bird out there, was the chicken.
Yeah, they learned a lot by checking out the chicken's genetics. I mean, look at the extensive work that Hutt did, for one thing. Number of them.
But what I'm talking about is...
Wait, as far as game fowl breeders, the one that really brought this to light and made a difference for me was Mike Gentry. Now, he didn't go extensive into it. He didn't cover the way I wish he would have covered it. But he showed that understanding genetics was not only possible, but it was practical, that you could use it to actually improve your birds, that it was something that was actually important. He didn't go in that deep, but he really spurred me like, whoa, okay. And I started checking out what he was saying, and it was working out like he said. And then I went into it deeper and met some people like Doug and some others that really showed me how important genetics was. So although in the past they didn't understand genetics, but let me say this, they understood enough that when they bred them, they were able to look at the offspring in such a way they could say, okay, well, this pairing and this color and these traits produce this. Okay, I want to go more towards that direction. Okay, they didn't keep bringing in new blood all the time with the ones that I'm talking about, because every time they add new blood, everything changed completely. They didn't learn anything. They recombinate the genes, started completely over every time they did it. Were they learning any? Do you learn anything when you add new blood all the time? A lot of times you don't, because you don't know how to determine the results.
It's a magic trick.
Because you've added so much genetic diversity, you don't know what you're getting. And if you don't understand the basics of genetics, understanding which are autosomes, which are dominant, which are recessive, which are polygenic, which are sex-linked, if you don't understand that, not only do you not know what to select for, you don't even know what you're looking at, but you don't know how to breed them after that, or improve them, or fix them. So, yeah.
But they think hybrid vigor fixed them. It's a smokescreen.
Yeah.
It's very temporary. Yeah. We say it all the time,
And that's the reason they have to add blood. That's the reason they think they have to add blood. But it's a magic trick. You add blood, and then hocus pocus, you say, what happened to my chickens? They're nothing like they used to be. They disappear.
Yeah.
You can almost bring it down to predict down to the season, the year after crossing, where you're going to have to, okay, time to add in the new blood, because they're starting to come out with a lot of variety. You can almost, for somebody who really knows breeding, like Kitty and Frank, and they come across somebody who is like, hey, this year I'm going to do my crossing. I just can't wait.
No, it's not exactly like that. It's more like, damn, my birds are getting smaller. I better do something about it.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. But you guys can predict, okay, yeah, go ahead, do your crossings. Let me get back to you in about 3 years and see what's going on there. You know what I mean?
I get calls all the time, and the first thing they say, I need to get one of your birds. I've got round heads, or I've got, this, I've got that, and I need to freshen mine up. They're getting small and short-tailed, and, and I need to get one of yours to add to that, to freshen them up. And I want so bad to say, wait a minute, let me talk to you a minute. But I don't sell, and I just leave it at that.
Yeah, they get a bump and they think they fixed them. I hear it all the time. Well, my birds are getting smaller, so I crossed this line with this line. I got the size back. No, you didn't. You got a temporary bump in hybrid vigor. Okay. You wait a couple of generations, it's going to go right back where it was. It's going to snap right back like a rubber band, because you didn't fix anything. You didn't fix, the conformation like you think. You didn't actually, because when you add new blood, you recombinate it. You didn't improve on the polygenic or the quantitative inheritance. You actually started over completely. Okay. So.
And you can do it with any bloodline too. It doesn't matter. You could take a silver gray to a light red black breast. Okay, bring them together. It doesn't matter, as long as it's a hen and a rooster. You're going to get that hybrid vigor. It doesn't matter what it is, but they think it's the bloodline of that bird that caused that hybrid vigor.
I heard a breeder the other day say that I've been breeding these things for 20 or 30 years, and I still not sure what I'm going to get. I can't do. Well, first of all, he didn't clean them up properly. So there's still all that genetic diversity, and he just keeps breeding contrasting characteristics, getting that variation, and he thinks it's normal. You know what I mean? So he's not getting the uniformity, and so he can't predict his results. And to them, they think that's normal. So,
well, my first question to them would be, why is this happening? What the hell are you doing wrong in your breeding practices for your birds to start coming small, or
They're stunting them wrong, and they're mating
That's all
them
it is. That's
Yeah.
all it is. If you
Mhm.
go back, the ones that think they have to refresh them every 2 or 3 years, if you go back and check, they're picking the cock, they're taking their time with the cock, taking maybe a long time to select that cock and get the right cock in a lot of instances, but they don't check the hen. They just throw any old hen in there with them, and they're really, a lot of people, Nancy, they can look at a rooster and tell you if he's worthy of breeding, but not very few people can look at a hen and tell you the same thing. Very few.
Okay, let's move on to. I'm going to skip a bunch of stuff, but
Well, Kenny, before you move on real quick, I just really like what Jason says here. One way you're pulling all the defects out, and one by one, you're pulling them all out one by one, and the other way you're putting them all back in.
yeah, actually, you are right.
Maybe worse. Maybe
Yeah.
worse than what you'd already taken out.
Adding recessives you didn't want, losing the homozygous dominant traits, and maybe adding a lethal gene that you won't find out that's there for a few generations when you start concentrating the genes, because just now you're inbreeding them. Yeah, so it's a ticking time bomb is what you're doing. You know what I
That
mean?
stresses me. That really does. That stresses me, man. Just to think about that.
Okay, so let's. Nancy has one on how to fix. What was it, Nancy?
How to eliminate the buyer's regret.
Okay, let's do that after this, because I want to talk about. I did say we would talk about the seller's regret too, and I understand this one in that. Okay, you want to sell some birds, you want to pay for your feed. Bigger breeders have they actually want to make money. Okay, but what happens, and I've had this happen to myself too, where I never sell bad birds. I always call really hard. I select the standouts, and usually what's left is what I used to sell. And there was a time there when I would try to hatch as extras so I could sell quail size birds. And invariably, I would sell those quail size, go visit their farm a year or two later, look at their birds and go, damn, I let some standouts out. I let some of the standouts out.
I remember that.
I'm like, oh man, and I didn't say nothing, but inside I'm like, wow, I would love to have that bird back.
Well,
He was nice.
that happened to me, but actually what it was, I looked at it and compared it to my other birds, and I'm like, well, this bird's a much better bird. I'm going to let them have this one, give them that. And next thing you know, they must have bred them to immaculate hen or something, because they come back and it's like, whoa, where'd that come from?
Yeah.
I may want one of those next season, that type deal.
So I think as far as the seller's regret, it's usually one of two things. Is that he ends up letting birds out he wish he wouldn't have let out. Okay. So letting something out that he wish he would have kept could have made a big difference on his strain. Or he lets something out thinking it's not a big deal, but it is a big deal because the bird either had a defect, it was sick, or it was totally substandard. And then he ends up with a bad reputation because the word gets out, hey, this guy sells junk, because he didn't want to cull hard enough. He didn't want to get rid of the birds with the issues. He wanted to make something on it. Well, that gave him a bad reputation. So it's either they let birds out they didn't want to let out, or they let a bird out that they shouldn't let out. Okay. So.
Yeah, I see them all the time. Today, this past week, big farms having blemished birds with rye tail, crooked tail, a toe missing, crooked toes, and selling defects as blemishes. And people buying them, paying $300-$400 a piece still for them. So in certain hands, every bird has a value.
You know how many people have asked me, hey, I can't afford your best birds or your good birds, but I'll be willing to pay anything for your blemishes or your birds with mess. I'm not letting those out even if I have them. Nobody's getting those,
I did one time.
Huh?
I did one time and I regretted it.
Yeah. Is that right?
Yeah. Got it threw back up in my face. I said, he's a cull. I'm going to cull him. Oh, no. I'll buy him off of you. Don't cull him. So I let him have the bird. And then 3 years down the road, he was vilifying me. Let me have an old cull, a piece of junk, And I told him it was a cull before he ever took it. But I still got the heat for letting him have it.
Well, this happened to me one time where I sold a guy some, I think they were actually quail-sized birds, a whole bunch of them, right? And he had them for like a month. And then he contacts me and says, "Hey, all those birds I got from you are sick." I go, "Sick? What happened?" I was actually kind of mad. I go, "How in the hell did they get sick?" And he showed me pictures of everything, and they were sick. They were real sick. And then I found out from somebody else who knew him, because he was telling everybody I send out sick birds. Well, he said he just got the birds. He didn't quarantine them. He didn't put them off to the side. He just stuck them all with his birds right away. And his birds got my birds sick. And then he started giving me a bad reputation that I sold sick birds. Well, it's one of the reasons I don't like selling birds, because you just can't trust people. That they're, first of all, they're going to be honest, or they're not going to, do the right thing, actually.
Yeah, a lot of times a bird gets sick. They'll have it for a year and it'll get sick. Well, they sold me sick birds. They don't think the bird didn't get sick on their yard.
Yeah.
And then you come find it out, they're feeding them bird seed for nutrition.
Oh, geez.
Or a cornmeal or something. Something ridiculous. Or just the worst conditions ever. But when you sell a trio or a pair of quill-sized birds, if it's a true strain, you got to figure it out. But things happen, different environments, different nutritions. You can't tell what that bird's going to make in the hands of somebody else on 2,000 miles away. You just can't do it.
Well, the one that cracks me up is when people say, "Oh, I don't mind selling my best birds. I'll just reproduce them." Well, they don't understand. Even from the best families, they're going to produce decent birds, and they're going to have a handful of culls, but getting those standouts is sometimes harder than you think, and you only get a small percentage of them anyways. So the idea that I'm going to sell a really good bird thinking I could just reproduce them later, I just don't understand that kind of thinking, actually.
Yeah. I've had people get mad at me because I wouldn't sell them a particular bird and hit me one of my brood birds, one that I needed, or a hen that I needed, and they would get mad.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I see how you are. You won't sell the good ones. You just sell something else.
Well, I heard that for a while. I was hearing that a lot. That don't go to Kenny because he won't sell you his best birds. I go, of course I wouldn't. Why would I do that? I need those good birds. That's what I'm going to use to improve my family. I'm not going to improve my family with the mediocre birds. I'm going to improve them with the best birds that they're producing, the standouts. I'm going to cull the ones that are not right, okay? And I'm going to pick out the standouts for myself. And whatever's left is a good starter bird for someone else. That's how I feel about it, And if I sell you my best stuff, how am I going to improve my fowl? I don't understand that thinking either.
But a buddy of mine went to a well-known breeder's farm, and we walk up to his brood pens, and man, he had one nice bird in there. He was beautiful. He was everything a bird's supposed to be in. And my buddy says, "Well, what's this?" And he was telling him, the history on the bird and everything. He goes, "I bet you wouldn't sell him." "Oh, I'll sell him. Any bird on my yard's for sale." And I was thinking, spaghettios.
Yeah.
I'm thinking he's getting out of business.
No, he can repeat it, or he can reproduce them somehow, or they weren't pure in the first place. Everything's for sale. That's not a good sign. I'm sorry, this isn't.
Yeah,
so, okay.
that was a red strobe alarm going off when he said that.
Yeah, I got to the point when I just get tired of. I don't sell birds anymore, and I'll give birds away to my members and everything if I have any extras. But I got to the point when anytime I took them around my yard and was going to sell birds, they always wanted the birds I didn't want to sell. That means they have a good eye or whatever, but they would get upset. So it got to the point when I had a little area on the front of my property where any birds for sale, you could select away. These are the ones for sale. They didn't even see my brood fowl, and that's how I handled it for quite a while.
Never brag on one.
Never what?
Never brag on one, ever.
Never brag?
If you own your brood fowl, never brag on it, ever.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's everybody. "Oh, I got to have that bird. What do you take for him?" I've got to have him. So when you brag on one, that's the one they want, and they won't take no for an answer. They'll aggravate you to death over it.
Yeah.
Now, we're talking 20 years ago. You haven't had people just walking around your farm checking out your birds in a long time.
Long time, yeah.
Long time. Well, Janice has a question here. Would you select if you are in the market for selling birds? Okay, we're talking about seller's remorse here. Would you select the bird, or would you let the breeder select um, or or let the breeder select you a good birds for
Okay,
you?
I would.
You would let the breeder select your bird for you?
I would select my own bird.
Yeah,
I never
right.
let nobody select my own.
That's right. If you need the breeder to select the bird for you, then you don't understand the breed. You don't know what to select in the first place. You're ripening for getting ripped off
Mm.
because that guy knows you don't know what you're doing. Okay. What I teach is learn the breed, understand what represents a breed, understand the right type, conformation, color, the whole bit, understand the complete bird. And why do I tell you not to get them shipped to you? I want you to go to the farm and select them yourself. Okay. You need to select them yourself. You got to be happy with it. They got to represent you. They got to represent their breed and they got to represent you. I would never let the breeder select my birds for me ever. That's
I've had that happen a million times. Well, they're your birds. You know them better than me. I'll let you select them for me. I've heard that a million times. Or the breeder says, here, you take that. Well, I don't like that bird. Trust me. You want this one right here? He don't look like much. What we was talking about a while ago. He doesn't look like much, but trust me, I know my birds. Take this bird. You'll thank me for it. That if you don't want that bird, that breeder shouldn't be pushing that bird off on you. He should, well, pick anything you want then. Whichever one you want.
Yeah. No, I would never let someone else select my bird for me. Ever.
No way.
Mm-mm.
No way.
You're setting yourself up for a bad road, a bad path.
Not even 40 years ago would I let somebody do that.
No.
I'm paying. I'm going to get what I want.
Now, there was a time like my mentors, who I really trust, spent a lot of time with, and really got to know, that there was a time I would have like Tony, I would have let him select for me. But then I also learned that Tony just has a different eye. Here's the other problem too, is they have a different eye than you do. Now, Tony is a good selector, good breeder. He understands a breed better than anybody I know. But him and I have a different eye for the bird. That when I look at his birds, I know how he selects them. I know why he thinks the way he thinks, and he loves them. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with them, but I look for a different looking bird, and I learned under Tony. Okay.
Well, like one of my mentors, he would breed a coarser bird like the Old English.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's Tony.
Where I wanted the slick, aerodynamic, athletic look, and not say his birds they look good. It's just we was different areas.
I look at Tony's birds, and I don't even know if he knows it. This is just my opinion. This isn't anything against Tony, but like I have pictures up here, I got some over here, and I got pictures around here of Herbert Atkinson paintings of the Old English games. Tony's birds to me look like Herbert Atkinson paintings. Okay, where mine look like what I think American game should look like. They have a little higher station, a little more athletic look to them. They have a bigger tail, fuller tail. They have a smaller, thinner, finer head. I look for a completely different bird. When it comes to selecting a bird, I think there's certain criteria a bird should have to represent its breed. So an Old English bird, here, let me pull this up real quick. An Old English bird is quite different than
big, wide, thick heads. The heads are huge on them.
So the left is an Old English game. That's a painting by Herbert Atkinson, and the one on the right is American Game, which it was a painting that Diane Jackie did of my birds, and the cock was actually Maximus. Okay, the proportions I would like to see a little bit different, and I can show you how I like them. But this gives you a good example of the difference between the two breeds and how they should be. So if you understand the breed, then you can select properly. But here's where's this other one here? I guess I could show. Here we go. This is a silhouette. I use these for my members. Okay, so the one on the right is it's a painting that Diane Jackie did of Maximus from a picture I sent her. Okay, to me, that represents American Game, and that's what I look for. So I have pictures of Maximus all over the place. Here's another one here.
But one thing, Kenny,
what's that?
One thing of the comparison you showed from the Old English to the moderns.
Yeah,
look how well the cock matches the hen in each picture.
Yeah, right.
See,
Yeah.
that's what we're always talking about, matching them up. But if you look at that, the hen always matches the cock.
Well, it's like this too. You look at Maximus, look at the hens. They have the
Yeah.
same conformation and type as he does, and those colors match. Okay. So that's what I look for. So I have certain pictures of Maximus around my place. I have the paintings that Jackie did for me. And anytime I select birds, I'm using that as my standard. I select towards that. Anything that's an exaggeration from that, it's out, right away. So, Nancy, you want to talk about what was it again?
How to eliminate
buyers. Go ahead, say it again.
How to eliminate the buyer's regret.
Okay.
So
this is something I gotta explain it. I kind of did a quick outline that it started out something I did maybe a year ago, and then I expanded a little bit the last couple of days. And then Nancy sat down. I go, Nancy, look it over, see if it's represents chicken breeders, as far as regrets. And so this is what she wrote just a little while ago. And I said, okay, you teach it. So I'm going to let Nancy host this part, and then we're going to end it.
Now you're making me all nervous. Now, Frank did say some of this already. That guy, he jumped the gun on me. But so the reason why I wrote this up is because, we talked about the buyer's regrets. We talked about the seller's regrets. Okay, fine. We got regrets all over the place. But how are we going to eliminate those? Right? So what's most important to me are the buyer regrets. You want to eliminate those buyer regrets because you guys out there are the buyers. First of all, understand the history of your breed that you're going to choose to breed. For an example, if you live in Wisconsin, like Barbara does, you want to focus on a breed that can handle those cold winters, not one of the breeds that would rather do better in, say, Florida, where it's got humidity in the sun all the time. You get like a Cochin down there in Florida, and it's just going to sweat like crazy. So make sure that you know the history of the breed. Make sure that you know that your breed of choice is going to be able to handle whatever climate that you're going to put them in. Let's see. Do your research, guys. Make sure you do your research on the breeder that you're going to select to buy from. You get a breeder out there that seems to be really good. You call them up. You ask them some questions, know what questions to ask them, maybe even bait him a little bit, know the answer to some of the questions to see how honest he is with his answers when you already know the answer to what you've researched and found out about him. Those are some of the things that will help you along the way and keep you from wasting your money. Let's see. Environmental changes we talked about. Did you add some of these,
No, I just cleaned it up. I made it look good.
Wait a minute. Where am I? You changed it on me.
I moved something below it so I could cover it real quick.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I lost my place.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay. Determine whether or not the breeder that you're going to buy from is a true breeder. Like I said, ask the questions. You'll tell by his answers. Oh, what kind of breeds do you breed? Oh, well, see, I've got this and this and this and this and this and 10 other breeds out back. Well, okay, you want to stay away from him. Space availability. Make sure that you have the pens out there that you're going to need to do your breeding and be able to do your breeding properly. Because if you're limited on space, you're going to run into problems. The risk of buying hybrids. The risk of buying mongrels. These are all things that you need to consider. You have to do your homework. It may take 6 months. It may take 2 months. It just depends on how good of a researcher you are on the breeders that you plan to buy your birds from. Let's see. Bringing new diseases on your yard. Ask the breeder, what kind of diseases have you had to deal with on your farm? What kind of defects does your family carry? These are all things that you need to know about the birds that you're going to be bringing back to you. Do you have a place on your farm where you can quarantine these birds for 30 to 60 days before you even incorporate them into your flock? So some of the things that you need to think about. What we've talked about earlier, cheap chickens become expensive flocks later on.
Yeah.
Keep that in mind.
Yeah.
So if you buy a hen for $25, hey, I got a great deal. And then you breed that hen with your best rooster and you get nothing but junk after that. That cheap hen just cost you a ton of money in feed and time. So think about that. Cheap is not always better. It's like Kenny always tells me, because sometimes I like to go for the sales. I got this and this and this for $10. And he's like, I would have paid 20 for it and got something of higher quality. He says that to me all the time. Oh my goodness. So seller regrets. Seller regrets happen when, like we said, the breeder sells a bird he wishes he hadn't. And that happens a lot to us. But I just wanted to tell you guys a few things on how to eliminate, so eliminating your regrets on buying and eliminate your regrets on selling. Those are things to think about.
The biggest thing I'd like to add to that, and I'm sure Frank can chime in on it, is bringing a bird onto your yard, paying that kind of money, and in that bird maybe hiding a sickness and then exposing all your birds. Nancy was talking about, a cheap bird becoming a more expensive thing, as makes an expensive flock down the road. You're producing a lot of birds with a lot of faults. You're bringing on birds with sicknesses, and before you know it, you got a huge issue on your farm. Between the defects that they're spreading and the diseases they're spreading, you have a bigger problem than you had before. So those are the kind of things I would guard against.
You're right. That's what I was going to say, Kenny. One $10 hen or rooster could wipe you completely out to where you couldn't have birds there for a very, very long time.
Yep.
It could be that bad. But here's what it comes down to me, and I'm talking from experience again. The worst part of buyer's regret is the humiliation after the fact. That's the worst part of it all, is when you realize I was taken advantage of. This guy knew this already, whether it's the disease or just junk chickens, whatever it is. The humility is the worst part of it all.
I was talking to, I think it was a member about a year ago. He had bought some chickens from a well-known breeder. I'm not going to say who it is, but he was afraid to make a big deal about it because he knew everybody liked this guy. Everybody trusted this guy. And he just didn't think it was going to go well if he made a big issue about it. So he just took his loss and walked away. A
lot of them will do that.
Yeah.
And even if they don't turn out well, and everybody else is like, oh yeah, they're great birds. It's a fad, right? Oh yeah, mine was great too, man. Yeah, the best chickens I ever had in my life. And them knowing that's not the truth.
Well, then we go back to what I was saying earlier, which I think is the biggest problem, is even when they realize they're bad, they're not great birds, because they spent the money on those birds, they're going to breed them. They're going to try to make a family out of them. They're not going to let those things go to waste. They're not going to cull those birds and lose $2,000 or $3,000. They're just not going to do it. But
breed them and sell them.
They will do what they can to make a family out of that, hoping. And I'm a firm believer you can make a family out of any cock and hen if you know what you're doing. I've seen some poor brood fowl turn into great families because the people know what they're doing. But the problem is most people don't. They're getting these birds. They don't know what to do. And they just never seem to make progress, with them.
Or put that kind of time in them. You take some bad, so you get some really bad chickens to start with. Yeah, it's going to take you a lot longer to get where you need to be. And a lot of people are just not willing to put it in it, because that's the reason Ben Kenny's always saying, try to get the best you can afford and get, because, that's going to save you a huge amount of time just starting out with the right birds.
Yeah. Take your time, look for the right birds, look for the right breeder. Don't just accept anything. Make sure their good reputation is actually a good reputation, and it's coming from the right people. And you're going to save yourself, a lot of headaches down the road.
And one more thing, Kenny. Okay. One more thing. And a lot of time, and not all these, but I see so many people do it. They'll say, I've never given my birds medications. I never have. My birds get no medication, and they're filling them full of medications. They say that because they don't want to be embarrassed about it. They want people to think that their chickens are healthy. I've given medicine to my chickens for many, many years. Sometimes you have to, but I don't now. That's the main thing. But a lot of people will just flat out say, no, I don't give my chickens any type of medicines when they're doing. So that's something that you really got to work through and be able to trust. Trust is so important when buying chickens.
There's a time for medications, but I don't think it's a good plan forever. I think it's a time to get the best birds you can. You might have to medicate them to keep them alive to get the numbers and get your family going, but you got to work towards a disease-resistant family that's not reliant on medications. That's what I believe. That's what I teach.
Because one thing, if they are given medications and you get the birds, and especially you live in a cold area, the first cold front that comes through, you're going to find out if they was giving them medications or not to keep them alive.
I can tell you one thing. If you see a video where they're boasting, they're actually selling chickens and they're talking about all the medications they're using, you don't want to buy chickens from these guys. I'm telling you, whoever they are, that's not a good sign. What's he saying?
He's asking, how many years would you have to have the birds before you would know that you're okay as far as diseases go?
Well, I mean, if you're hatching chicks every year and you're not seeing disease, you're pretty much good for the most part. You know what I mean?
First smoke would really tell you something.
The diseases they're going to express themselves. They are. Any stress, any change in weather, any stress, anything is going to, there's a good chance those diseases are going to be expressed. So if they're not sick, you should be good. Just cull the ones that show sickness later or the offspring that become sick, you know?
Yeah. You go through a moat and they stay healthy and you're not having any sickness or anything, you're in good shape. No doubt.
Just in case he's on a different page than we are. Now, if you buy birds, I always say quarantine them. We have a 30-30-30 rule. Basically, you put them as far away from your other birds as possible, at least 30 feet away. And I used to say 30 yards, but people go, I don't have, my yard's not that big. 30 yards is a long way. So anyways, I made it simple. I just said 30 feet. Okay. So I said, keep those birds away from the other birds, quarantine them for about 30 days. If they don't show any sicknesses, put a sacrificial bird with them. And if your bird doesn't show a disease, chances are they're good. After 30 days, you know, that's what I do. And then feed those birds last every day. And then once you go through that, they should be fine.
Yeah. Any type stress on them, they make it through stressful, like a cold front or a week of rainy weather or, you know, something like that. Usually you're going to be all right, because if they're carrying any type of disease and that immune system goes down, that disease is going to show itself pretty fast.
Well, anybody who says that where they live, it's because of where they live. There's no way to keep the birds alive without the medications. The truth is, they're not willing to do what it takes to keep that strain healthy. I don't care if it's in Mexico, United States, Philippines, whatever. Okay. What happens is if you have a place where they say diseases are rampant, like let's say the Philippines, and without the medications, the birds would die. Well, if you're not practicing biosecurity and keeping people out of your yard, or you're bringing in new birds all the time, or you're taking birds off your farm and bringing them back after a show or whatever, then chances are you're exposing your birds to disease. And anytime you bring in new birds, new genetics, and you're not checking them out first, you're bringing in new problems with them. And every time you do that, you're starting from square one every single time. So when it comes to fixing birds genetically, whether it's the color of the bird, the conformation of the bird, the type of the bird, the performance production of the bird, chances are that if you're not able to fix them, it's because you're not willing to do what it takes to get there. Same thing with disease. If you're not able to keep a healthy flock, then you're not willing to do what it takes to keep a healthy flock. I believe everybody can do this. I've seen it. I have members in the Philippines that are doing this, where they said it couldn't be done. So go figure.
Yeah. If I can do it in the environment that I live in, it can be done anywhere. There's no doubt about that. No doubt.
And if you need medications, you got seafowl and you need medications to keep those birds alive so we can get this family going, I have the perfect person to talk to who understands the birds, understands the diseases, and understands the medications that it takes to fix them or to help them through the hard times. And that's Peter Brown. He's the best one out there for this. And if for my members, just go on the healthcare page. His banner's there, his phone number, his contact information's there. And if you got issues, contact Peter, and he'll tell you exactly what to do. He's the only one except for Dr. Gallardo, but he's not going to give you medications. He works for the university. But as far as actually getting medications and getting your birds right, contact Peter Brown.
And it's not black market stuff. It's not that black market crap. This is good quality meds, and he knows how to use them and how to take care of it. And very good as far as disease oriented, knowing what your birds is going through once you explain to him what's happening. But that's the main thing. He sells good quality meds. That's the main thing.
He understands the disease. He can even pronounce the disease. He understands the medications, and he can pronounce the medications. Okay. This guy knows his stuff. It's amazing him and I are friends because I work so hard to get away from medications and get everybody away from medications. And he's in the business for, treating sick chickens. It's amazing we're friends, but if you need medications, he's the only person I'd send people to.
If I had a problem, that'd be the first person I contacted. No doubt. Nobody else but Peter. That would be my go-to person if I had a problem.
Yeah. So, okay. Anything you guys want to say before we wrap it up? And we're going to move into the back end with our members.
Yes, I want to say one thing. I want you to let the public know what we have just put into the Breeders Academy membership website.
What did I do?
What is it? What did you just do, Kenny?
I don't know. Tell me. I put things on all the time.
You put in the first part of.
Oh, I talked about that already.
Did you really? Okay, well, let's refresh their memory.
Okay, so
guys, you want to be a Breeders Academy member today. You want to see this interview.
Yeah,
it's really good.
This is an interview with Brian Reeder on genetics. We call it geeking out with poultry genetics because that's the term he was using during our talk, that we're just geeking out and having a good time. And we did. And it's the first video of many. I will have the 4 episodes that we did the second talk. And then I'm going to split this one into 3 or 4 episodes as well, so there'll probably be about 7 or 8 good episodes out of this. And then him and I are going to get together and do more. So those are going to come out fairly quickly now. But the first one's on the Masters Class video page. Go check that out. Can't wait to hear what you think. And there'll be more coming soon.
Join us today.
Yeah. Thanks, Frank. Thanks, Nancy. Thank everybody for joining us. And like I always say, your comments and your questions really shaped the show. And they actually did today. The outline was useless today for the most part because we just responded to our members.
Yeah, I guess we can use it on down the road then for something else.
I don't want to cover this topic all the time. This was just something I saw. So, okay. We'll see you guys later. We'll see our members in the back end. Thanks.
Bye.
See you guys.